The United States Supreme Court ruled to uphold the interpretation of birthright citizenship as it stands. The current interpretation says that anyone born on the United States soil, regardless of their parents' status, is a citizen. Now, let me tell you why Black Americans have a stake in this conversation. As foundational Black Americans indigenous to this soil, we understand that the interpretation of the 14th Amendment was not written as an incentive for immigration. It was written for the descendants of enslaved Black Americans, whose humanity had to be written into law to shore up our rights here as indigenous peoples of the land. What's happened over time is that a protection for us has been reinterpreted as a loophole, one that has been used as an immigration incentive by foreign nationals, by corporations. It's actually a business model. There's literally whole businesses that sell citizenship. Come have your baby over here, become a dual citizen. That exposed a few things for us as we looked through this. There are literal companies that will charge a foreign national tens of thousands of dollars to come here and have a baby on U.S. soil. So now that child becomes an American citizen. Well, that highlighted this is a national security risk, and this ruling leaves that intact. When countries, some of which are not our allies, can come here and pay to birth citizens on our soil, it's not really an immigration conversation anymore. It is a national security one. Again, this ruling leaves that intact. And we were hoping that this push would narrow that. Today it didn't. And I'm not going to pretend it's not a somewhat disappointing, but I played Division I basketball and I captained teams at really high levels. I've also been an HR executive and led global teams. And I learned early not to measure a team by any loss. You measure by what you learn. Any setback is actually where we want our focus to be, because that shows us a lot. That gives us visibility to the actual issues. This showed us how many people have benefited from a protection that was never really meant for them. It also showed us how much work still remains on our path to protected class status. And it reminded us why delineation is not optional. It's absolutely necessary and healthy. And it also showed us the security risks that we face as a nation when we allow misinterpretation of the 14th Amendment. And here's what we'll continue to hold on to as a lineage. This ruling doesn't touch temporary protected status rollbacks. Haiti and Syria already in motion. It doesn't stop this nation looking at our immigration policies with a much more forensic lens. The larger accountability conversation is not over because of today. These are all steps in the right direction. And the most important movement, the one that cannot be overruled, is the movement happening within us as a lineage. The awareness, the waking up, the refusal to be redefined yet again.
Shout out to her. She is right. She is very right. And by the way, she's one of my favorite creators on TikTok. I agree with everything that she said. 100%. These migrants leave their countries struggling. Latin America, the Caribbean, Africa. Go to the USA, benefit from these policies that were initiated, that were started due to Black Americans, and then later start disrespecting Black Americans. And then you expect Black Americans to like this? Come on, let's be honest. That is nonsense. Why would somebody do that? Why would somebody like these people who scam the system benefit from birthright citizenship that is meant for Black Americans and then later disrespect them? Donald Trump and his administration were talking about dismantling this birthright citizenship, and many Black Americans are standing with him on this issue. Don't get me wrong, they are standing with him on this particular issue. And that I want us to go deep into this, understand what is being said, who are being said, and why they are saying it. The video is for awareness and educational purpose. If you find it interesting, don't forget to click on the like button. And I've seen that many of the viewers have not yet subscribed. Please, just do us a favor and smash on the subscribe button. Let's get into it.
Wait, why didn't nobody tell me that birthright citizenship was meant for the babies of slaves? On the basis of that logic, we got to follow what Trump says, y'all. A lot of things have changed. If you don't have a musket, I can't tell me about the Second Amendment. Baby, if you're not pouring in, and I mean pouring it in, shoving that stick down and ready to shoot. So no more blickies, the Glocks, you're going to have to put them down. Yeah, sorry about that, folks, but Trump daddy said it's no more. Birthright was meant for slaves, for babies of slaves. So I'm sorry. We really gotta start taking this stuff to heart now, because he knows so much about how this country was founded and everything. And honestly, at this point, we need to re-roll out the entire Constitution. Like, let's light this candle. Let's talk about the amendment number 8. We're supposed to be protected from cruel and unusual punishment, but every time Orange Guy gets on the screen, I'm feeling very cruel and punished.
If you don't like Trump, get the out of America. Trump said birthright citizenship is only for black people. Native Americans always being disrespectful to black people, talking about we ain't indigenous to America, but I'm finna bust your bubble. And in 1924, Indian citizenship was signed into law, granting U.S. citizenship to all natives born in America, because you're not fucking indigenous. And the Trail of Tears happened in 1830 through 1850. That's 20 years, meaning that y'all went through 20 years of bullshit with the Europeans when they came to America. And the Underground Railroad, far as black people, happened from the 1700s to the end of the Civil War, ending in 1865. So we went through centuries of problems with European people burning down our ancestors' houses, businesses, farms, stealing our goats, cows, sheep, every goddamn thing that we worked hard for. Manslaughter, being hung. We went through so many things, but your people only went through 20 years and not one was hung. You just went through 20 years trying to fight for some shit that wasn't yours. You went through 20 years walking down Trail of Tears, crying and bitching because y'all wanted our land. Y'all wanted our history. And y'all signed government contracts to live on Indian reservations to have our history. Stop saying all black people come from Africa, because the blacks that's in America is not African. If you look on the job application, it say black or African American. Us in America is black. Africans that come over from Africa to America is considered African Americans. You dumb. Just like on the job application, you can see it say Native American or Alaska Native. The so-called Native Americans are truly Alaska Natives. That's why they live with teepees. Eskimos and shit. Just look at the real Indians had houses. Real Indians had shit that the white man wanted. And that's why black people, houses, businesses was burned down. That's why we was enslaved, because we were good at building. We was good at farming. We was good at crop. We was good at all that. And they needed us to do that. And on top of it, look at the skin. We can stand the sun. The sun love us. God love us. So guess what? We're going to use God-chosen people that can stand the sun, that don't get burned up, to get out here and work this field.
So I'm going to tell y'all again, black people, y'all need to stop feeling sorry for other races of people who do not give a damn about you. They're coming over here taking all of our benefits. I sold cars for 6 years. All the foreign people who are coming from below the Texas border literally used to get grants to get vehicles. They used to come inside the dealership, come get a buyer's order, and they would come back with a U.S. Treasury check. If you look up the numbers, Google it right now, 40% or more of the children's SNAP benefits in America are going to Hispanic people. Over 40%. The money that your ancestors picked cotton for, like Trump said, with birthright citizenship, that was meant for slaves. But all these other people are coming from all these other countries, taking advantage of the rights that our ancestors earned, of the money that we were supposed to get. They're getting the reason why they're saying that all the EBT money and all that stuff is spent up. When you apply for EBT, they ask you on the application what your race is. These people are putting that they're black on these applications. They're not putting that they're Hispanic. They're thinking they're not going to get it. So the numbers are misconstrued. All the grants, you see all these people, you go to a Mexican neighborhood, everybody over there has a van with a ladder on it. Everybody has a pickup truck. There's a reason these people are getting grants. They're getting grants. They're taking advantage, getting all the benefits of our country. They're getting business grants. How are these people starting restaurants, opening up apartment buildings, and doing all this stuff? How are they getting all this money on work visas? How is this happening? And you guys are feeling sentimental for these people who literally came over here and took advantage of this country. A lot of them are getting paid under the table and aren't paying taxes that we're paying for. So now our country is running up debt, and y'all are defending them. That's crazy.
In regards to this birthright citizenship stuff, I want to be clear. I never really talked about this and never really got down into the subject of this because I didn't understand what was occurring and why it was occurring. At the end of the day, the constitutional clause that talks about birthright citizenship 100% was meant to include, or was 100% meant to refer to, the children of prisoners of war. Okay? It does not mean, and it did not mean at that time, that if somebody from Libya comes to America, that when they have a child, that they have birthright citizenship. It never did mean that, because at that time, when that law was put into place, there were only indigenous Americans and Caucasians, or Europeans rather. There wasn't a whole bunch of other people here. So it at the time, it addressed the conversation of the time, of the moment, right? So the issue that I have with immigrants coming in and trying to use that as like a catch-all type of umbrella clause for them is that they then are now pushing that means that they have the same rights as those who are indigenous to this land, one, which is Black Americans, who I'm specifically talking about, and those who actually created the system with which we currently live in, which are the people who conquered us at the end of the day. That's what happened, right? Right? So the issue comes in when they are, and see, this is what they're doing. They are trying to say that Black people are immigrants and we're immigrants, so we should be able to be treated and get the same rights as Black people. And it's just not the truth. We are not immigrants. We were already here. So the issue with this conversation is that it separates us from our birthright and our inheritance to the land, okay? And to, to benefit from the system, that was created from on our backs, and it really was. And so when the immigrants come here and they say, "Oh, this place was built on the backs of immigrants," no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. So, Black people, you got to pay attention to this, because actually, at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is they are trying to say that Black people are similar to immigrants, that we're the same, and we're not. We were indigenous to the land. We could never be the same. And I think we need to get a little bit ahead of this at the end of the day. I think instead of us even trying to play on this level field, because we are indigenous to the land, we have more capability and more power than we even know. And we need to start setting the tone for that. We need to start setting our own ground rules, because at the end of the day, it's getting out of hand. People who are coming from other places think that they have the same rights that you have. No, you have courtesies. There's a difference, right? You have courtesies. We've given you a courtesy. We've extended you a courtesy, okay? And we've given you some additional privileges, but those are not rights that you have. If you're an immigrant, that's just it. You're an immigrant. That means that we have given you courtesy. We have given you the courtesy to allow you to do certain things. That doesn't mean that you come over here and you start making the rules.
Black Americans need to be heavily invested in this birthright citizenship conversation, because we only have citizenship as a result of the 14th Amendment. And I know that there are segments of Black Americans that believe that we grew here like cornstalk. But if you're paying attention to the Supreme Court conversations that have been had today, they do not give a damn about indigeneity and have gone so far as to question Native folks. And if tribal indigenous folks can claim U.S. citizenship on their own land. I did a video last year particularly talking about the Dred Scott decision of 1857, and if you're watching this on TikTok, you can look at my caption for that video. And I was talking about how the Dred Scott decision, which was a Supreme Court decision, tells you what you need to know about how they feel about us being here. Chief Justice Robert B. Taney said that Black people had no rights that a white man was bound to respect. That the Declaration of Independence naming that all men were created equal was not for us, and that ultimately servitude was our place as Black people in the United States of America, then you can absolutely recognize that no matter how many times they talk about illegals gaining citizenship, they don't want Black people to have it either. I find it odd that in this time, Black people will be trusting anything white men have to say, when the reason we have a whole ass Juneteenth is because people in Galveston, Texas weren't even told that they were emancipated. And also, it's not a matter of them stripping away our citizenship in order to ship us wherever around the world. It is their goal to have us in a continuum of servitude.
A whole lot of people thought that birthright citizenship was going to fail, okay? However, it did not fail. Okay, so if you are born in the United States of America, you are a birthright citizen. That is the ruling of the Supreme Court. And that is what so many of Black American forefathers fought for way back in the day. Okay, because back in the day, they were trying to base it on race and race alone. However, it's not based on race alone. It's about the fact you're born here. Okay. And contrary to what many people believe, Black Americans and white American abolitionists and politicians who were on the right side of history decided that early on. They were like, no, we're going to fight for birthright citizenship instead of it being based on race. Because if, in fact, they were to base it on race, they would have only let white folk be citizens, to be quite honest. They would have based it all on race. But now that I mentioned birthright citizenship and how the Supreme Court just upheld birthright citizenship and how this has been a long ongoing fight to get it way back in the day for Black Americans and white Americans who stood on the side of birthright citizenship, I want to talk about that because I ran into a comment and people didn't understand how Black Americans actually co-founded the United States of America, and this was one of the challenges that Black Americans actually took part in. There is absolutely nothing. Let me say this: there's absolutely nothing that took place in the United States of America good that Black Americans did not participate in. I'm gonna say this: the movie Roots has y'all screwed up. Okay. The movie Roots has y'all screwed up. Black Americans were doing more than just what you saw on Roots. Okay. If you care to even read the book I wrote on it, okay, Black Americans did everything in the United States of America the same way as white Americans did, okay? There's no white people can do this, white people, Black people couldn't do this. No. As far as skill set, as far as surveying, as far as a lot architects, engineers, Black Americans did the same exact thing as white Americans, and Black America actually did it more because we were enslaved. Okay, we did it more. So the founding of the United States of America was not just white folk. I just want to get that out. I just want to get that out there. It was not just white folk. It was Black Americans. There's nothing, when I tell you, I want y'all to understand this. Enslaved does not mean just working in the fields. We did everything. Everything. We did more, actually. We did everything. That's exactly why Black America can hold this nation together, because we know what to do. We know what to do. Okay? Black America did just as much and more for the founding of this nation in white America. So even when it comes down to birthright citizenship, it was Black Americans who freaking created that bad boy. Straight up. And I'm going to prove it to you right now, okay? If it were not for Black Americans, there would be no birthright citizenship. If it were not for Black Americans, there would be no birthright citizenship. That's facts. That's facts. All of what is going on in the United States of America is because Black Americans fought for it and made this country, our country, live up to what it's supposed to be. When you want to talk about the rulers of the good in America, you're talking about Black America.
Brothers and sisters, let us put politics aside for a moment. Aren't these Black Americans right? If a policy was meant for babies of slaves, if a policy was said to make sure that everybody who descended from formerly enslaved people became a US citizen. And then the same policy is being scammed, is being used by these migrants to become US citizens. Isn't it a right for Trump administration to end this birthright citizenship? Please, I want you to take a moment and think about this. The reason why the US government set this birthright citizenship, it was to make sure that all descendants, all babies of slaves became American citizens. Then the same birthright citizenship now is being used by many migrants who want to become American citizens. They go there, give birth to their babies, and then the babies become citizens. And remember that birthright citizenship was meant for babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for these migrants. It wasn't meant for rich Asians, rich Africans, or rich Caribbeans to give birth to American citizens by scamming the system. And that is why I'm siding with all of these black Americans. They are right. They're responding positively to what Trump did. Not because they totally agree with all policies of Donald Trump, but because on this issue of birthright citizenship, he is right. All melanated migrants should understand that the privileges that black Americans have should not be the same as the privileges that these migrants have, because black Americans are among the founders of this country. They're among the founders of America. They're the people who have built America. So you as an immigrant who've left your country recently, you should not expect to receive the same benefits as these black Americans. You shouldn't cosplay black Americans and then expect the system to treat you like how they treat black Americans. I'm talking about the benefits that these black Americans are owed as the citizens of the country. You're migrants, you have the right to migrate to the USA legally, but understand that even though you look like these black Americans, you're all melanated, you know the same people. Yes, you know the same people for real. No matter how long you have been living in America, you will not be like a black American. Because if you all know the history, you know that there are many ancestors of black Americans who have bled their blood fighting for America to be how it is. All of these laws, all of these policies that are benefiting many of y'all melanated people in America, they were fought for. And who fought for them? Black Americans. If you really listen to these black Americans, you really understand where their anger is coming from. Imagine being the founder of the country. Imagine being a real citizen of a country and then see another person who have left their country receiving more benefits from your government than you. Because what is literally happening in America is that the government sometimes tend to support these migrants more than how they support black Americans. How would that make you feel if you were in their shoes? If you were a citizen, a real citizen of a country, you're struggling, you can't get grants, you can't get loans, and then all of a sudden somebody migrates from somewhere, come to the USA, not even speaking perfect English, not even understanding the history of the USA. Then later, after 2 years, this person is given grant by the US government. This person is given loans by the US banks. How would you feel? Wouldn't you resent these people? Wouldn't you fight against that system that is favoring them instead of favoring you, the owner of the country? That is where many of these black Americans, brothers and sisters, are coming from. And y'all migrants should listen and understand them. They have no hate toward anybody. What they hate is how this system works. What they hate is how many of y'all are scamming the system and then end up stealing the benefits that are meant for them, that are meant to support their families, that are meant to enhance their standards of living. So now that Trump is going to end this birthright citizenship, so now Trump is planning to end this birthright citizenship. And probably we're going to start seeing the government using the money that it was using, supporting these migrants, to support Black Americans. And that is what I wish. So y'all migrants, don't get angry. Listen, understand, and put yourself in the shoes of these Black Americans. You will support them and you will side with them. So if you find this video interesting, make sure you support us by clicking on that like button. And those viewers who have not yet subscribed, smash that subscribe button. That is the best way to support us. Mr. TA, your African brother signing off. Ciao.